Hey guys, welcome to this new channel, where I am going to be coding a bunch of games. This is a new thing. I'm kind of trying. I'm not an expert or anything, but we're gonna see how it goes. I've started, I don't know, probably maybe like a couple months ago. I'm getting there. Right now in the scene I have a player controller, and I have a follow player script, so the camera will follow the player. And what I will be doing in this video is making a script on this door to load a certain scene, and it is going to be scene 2. I'm going to have it load this scene. Not this scene, no. This scene. And this is where the player is going to start. And yeah, so it's something that I learned pretty recently, and I figured out how to do it. I was very, very proud of myself. So yeah, we're going to do a scene management stuff and load a certain scene, and then I'm also going to show how to lock doors, and then you can't access that unless you do something. So yeah, so far in the game, if I click play and it loads up, you can move left and right, you can jump up. When you go up to the door, you're supposed to press E. When I press E, it doesn't do anything because the door is just a model design. So yeah, let's set up the door. So in the door, I'm going to set up a script, and I'm just going to name it load new scene. You guys can call it whatever you guys want to. But now, wait for it to load and set up the script. Now we have these two methods. We don't need those. We're going to set up to be a trigger. Before we actually jump into this, I'm actually going to make the door B. Oh, I already did. So yeah, you need to, on the door, you need there to be a sprite render so you can see the door. You need a transform component, because the transform component will actually decide like where it puts. As you can see, it has its Y, X, Y, and Z value for its position, then rotation, then scale. The sprite render, that's how you can actually see what sprite it is. It has the door sprite, and you can change its color. And then there's its box collider, which without trigger, if I go into the game and then try to collide with the door, it's an actual collision object, so I can't go past it. But if I change that to being in its trigger, I can go through it like I was before, because now it's like a trigger zone, so I can set it up to if I enter that trigger, something will happen. So in the script, I want to set it up to, I'm going to do a void on trigger enter 2D, because I have it set on 2D for my project. And then I'm going to leave some space for reference to set up like reference stuff. And then in this, I want to set it up to if you press a certain button, so if in parentheses input.get key, and then in parentheses this is the key you want to get, so you want to do key code dot and then whatever key it is. In this case it's E, because I want it to be when you press E, I want it to open the door. And you have to do the open and close curly brackets that's where your code would go for the if command. Now when you press E, you want it to load a new scene. So whenever you want to work with scene management, you always need to make a new using tag. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it down below, and then I'm going to do dot scene management. So now I can set up scenes, or for it to load new scenes. So I'm going to do scene manager dot load scene, and then in parentheses this is the scene I want to load. Now you can do 0 or 1, and that would be the build index name. If I go to my file, then my build index, or my build settings, it'll show my build index. So this is scene 1, which is the scene I'm on right now, is 0, and then the scene I want to load is 1 for my build index. So I can either do the build index, or you can do, so like 1 would work, and then, or you can do quotation marks and then put whatever the name of your scene is. So if I go to my build index again, it'll show the name here. You don't have to worry about the front part, but the second part, like scene 1, scene 2, that's what I would type in to load that specific scene. Or you can reference the scene manager again, and you can load the scene, or not load scene, you can get the active scene, and then in parentheses, open and close parentheses, then on the right of that you can do dot build index. So this would be, so this line of code right here would load whatever, like when you enter the door, it would just reload the scene I'm on right now. Or you can do +1 to load the next scene in the build index. That would be like if you want to like load like the next scene. Or you can do -1 if you want to load the previous scene. Or really minus or add whatever number you want to according to the build index. What I'm going to do though is, so I can actually change it in my components, I'm going to make it public so I can see it in the components. And the component that I'd see it in is the script, so I'd see it down here. Then I'm going to set it up to where it is going to be an int, which just stands for integer, which is just any whole number. And then the name that I want to call it, you can call it whatever you want to. I'm going to call it the build index value. So now it's going to load the specific value of whatever. So basically, the build index value name is going to represent an integer. And since in here you normally type in like a 0 or a 1, that represents an integer, so I'm just going to replace it with the build index value. Now I'm going to save this, I'm going to go out, and now if I look to my load scene, or load new scene, it should show the build index value. Now I can set this whatever I want it to be. So I want it to load, if I go to my build index, it shows a 0 and then a 1. This scene is 0, but the next scene I want to load is 1, so I want to change this to being a 1. Then I want to click play. Now if I go up to the door, I'm entering the trigger zone, and I actually realized I messed up something. Because I didn't press anything yet, but I just realized that if you want to do it to where, shoot, hold up. You want to do it to where if you enter the trigger zone and if you stay in the trigger zone. So I want to make another void on trigger stay 2D. And then you essentially just want the exact same thing to happen. So you want to copy it and then paste it into here. And then save that now. Now go out. Now if you play it, it will load the scene with whatever build index value you decide to call it. So if I go up to the door, then I press E, it'll load the scene. So that works. Now we want to make it to where it will lock the door, which is actually very simple. It took me a while to figure out how to do this, but one day I ended up thinking about it. I was like, oh, hey, that makes a lot of sense. So what we're going to make is a public, so you can see it in the components, and I'm going to make a bool. Now a bool is a little confusing for me, but when you make it into a reference, all it is essentially is just a toggle. You can toggle it on and off, make it true or false. And I'm going to call this bool is locked. You can call it whatever you want to, but is locked just makes sense to me. Now for this, you want it to be if you press the E key and, so you want to do two and symbols, and then is locked, two equal signs, and then false. And then you want to use this exact same line of code down below, right here. So essentially what it's doing is it's sensing to where if you enter or if you stay in the trigger zone, and then if you press the E key, it also checks to see if is locked is disabled. So if I save the script, go out, and then go, when it loads, go to the door, down here, and now as you can see it loads the build index value and it senses to see if it is locked or not. Right now it is not locked. Is locked is disabled, meaning since is locked is disabled, if I enter the trigger zone, and then press E and then is locked is disabled, it will load the scene. So right now it will load the scene. So now if I try to go up to the door, it'll do just like before as if I didn't even have that. I can go to load the scene. But then if I go to the door and then enable that, now is locked is enabled, meaning that I press E but now it isn't disabled, so now it can't load the new scene. So I'm pressing E and it won't load the next scene and the build index. So that works. I'm just going to disable that for now. And to make it to where it would be like you need a key, you could make it to where you'd have a UI key component. I can do this in another video if you guys want me to, but I could have a UI key component. set that up to where if that's enabled, then you enter the trigger of the door, and then you press E and is locked is enabled. Then it will disable is locked, and then if you press it again, then since it is disabled, it will allow you to go to the new scene. And then you can also just destroy when you press E the key. But then if key isn't disabled and isn't there, then it doesn't do the line of code, so is locked will stay enabled. So that's how you'd make it to where you could set up a lock function, but right now this is pretty much essentially all you need to make it locked or not. You can also make like a text bubble or something that has like what scene you're going to load, and then you can have like a little lock symbol that you can enable and disable according to what door you want to lock and not lock. So that's essentially that, and if I go to this new scene, scene 2, I did add something onto the door just to test this out and see if my memory was, good. So automatically it's going to be 0, and then is locked is disabled. So now if I go to this, now I can go back and forth. I can go this way. If I go up to this door, then I can go this way. So now I can load both scenes, I can set up different things in the scenes, and it works. So it's essentially all you need to make make a door to go to a different scene. And you can set up whatever you want in the scene. You can set up like a long level, you can set up like really whatever you want, and it will work. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Join me next time. It'll probably be next week where I might do that's my plan. I'm gonna plan on doing a video each week, and I will look at the comments if there is any, and I will try to do whatever you guys say. Otherwise, I will just pick a idea that I think could be useful. Please like and subscribe, and see you next week.